I mean, already there are certain countries, France, Spain, Portugal, have applied to get money out of the Globalisation Adjustment Fund because of losses of jobs in the automobile sector. Germany and Finland have also applied to get compensation for loss of jobs in the mobile phone sector. Italy, Malta, Lithuania for loss of jobs in textiles. So the European Union has put the strategy in place, saying quite explicitly, we recognise this is going to lead to massive job losses and massive problems for labour across the world, inside and outside. And there's no surprise that it should be like that, because all of the past trade liberalisations, which we've seen over the last 30 years, have led to exactly the same consequences. The ones which we put in this report particularly refer to Africa and Latin America in the 1980s and 1990s. The trade liberalisation has led to industrial collapse, the destruction of several of the manufacturing and industrial sectors, and mass and persistent unemployment. Not the short-term adjustments that neoliberal economic theory suggests will happen as a result of liberalisations, but long-term unemployment, and then the great increase in number of people going into the informal sector. Zambia, for example, which went through this experience in the 1980s and 90s, now 90% of women employed in Zambia are in the informal economy. 85% of the entire population, working population of Zambia is in the informal sector. Also, I think it's important to recognise the collapse in terms and conditions for workers. Again, I'll only take one example from this, Mexico, which experienced severe trade liberalisation in the 1980s, and then again with the NAFTA agreement from 1994 onwards. The minimum wage in Mexico is now worth a fifth. It's worth 20% of what it was worth 30 years ago. So workers on the minimum wage in Mexico are now earning 1/5 in real terms of what they were earning in 1976, which has been played out around the world. The threat of the Doha round also, we're very happy that the ITUC has recognised the threat which the Doha round, and particularly the NAMA negotiations, poses to industrial growth and to industrial employment. And this is my last point, because I have my 2-minute warning. There has been a really good and positive change in the position of the international trade union bodies, particularly the ITUC, as a result of this gradual flowering of evidence of what the impact of trade liberalisation is on jobs. And there's been greater observation of what the impact is going to be in developing countries, greater voice of the 11 countries producing these studies and bringing them forward. And I think that has led to positions like we've seen prior to this ministerial conference, the position of the global unions coming into the 7th ministerial conference of the WTO has been that we cannot see this deal going through. They must not sign this deal at the WTO at the moment because of the impact it will have on jobs. And that's a major change from the position of many of the international trade unions in the past, which was trying to focus on the social clause as being the only thing which we could put in to try to solve the problems of trade liberalisation. We certainly share the beliefs of all of the trade union federations in decent work, in labour rights and trade union rights. We've had differences in the past because we have never seen the social clause as being strong enough or being sufficient or dealing with the underlying problems of unemployment as a result of trade liberalisation. Because ultimately, all of the research that we've managed to bring together shows that this form of trade liberalisation leads to a massive loss of jobs and a massive decline in the terms and conditions for workers across the world. Now, the crisis which you talked about has revealed, I think, the depths of the problem faced across the world, particularly by working people, as a result of 30 years of this neoliberal program. The good news is it's also enabled us to come together around a much more common agenda of trying to fight back against the model itself. And I think that in terms of the trade strategy of the European Union, both at the WTO and in the bilateral negotiations, that trade strategy is a key focus for our common resistance. So I think I feel very positive, I feel very optimistic that we've now got to a stage where the social movements, the NGOs and the trade unions share a much more agenda, a common cause in terms of fighting back against the model of liberalisation and trying to end the destruction of jobs and the destruction of terms and conditions that we've seen over the last 30 years. So on that optimistic note, I think I'll leave. Thank you.